Hello everyone and welcome to Nature Days. I'm Brienne and today we're going to be talking about pollinators. Pollinators are animals that help plants reproduce by moving their pollen from one flower to another. We'll talk about the importance of plants another week, but a lot of the foods that you eat rely on pollinators, such as many fruits, vegetables, and nuts. Over 75% of the flowering plants in the world need the help of pollinators. So, which animals are pollinators? Can you think of any creatures you've seen visiting flowers? A lot of you probably thought of bees, which are a very important pollinator. We'll talk about them a little later in this video. Can you think of any other possible pollinators? Maybe some of you thought of butterflies. They're another pollinator we'll be talking about. But beyond bees and butterflies, there are so many other different pollinators out there, including certain birds, bats, beetles, small mammals, and even some lizards. Do these animals know they're pollinating the flowers? Are they doing it on purpose? Not exactly. Pollinators visit flowers in order to drink the sweet nectar the flowers make to attract them. Some do eat or collect pollen, but nectar is usually the main attraction. While they're on the flower drinking the nectar, pollen grains get stuck to their bodies and they carry that pollen to the next flower they visit, allowing that plant to reproduce. Some flowers are specialized so that only specific types of animals, sometimes even specific species, can pollinate them. For example, some flowers are shaped like tubes and only something that can reach inside of them is able to drink their nectar, such as a butterfly or a hummingbird. Other flowers have shapes that allow any number of creatures to pollinate them. And some creatures that visit flowers are better pollinators than others. For example, ants love to drink nectar from flowers, but they don't tend to carry much pollen with them when they go. Honeybees, on the other hand, actually intend to collect pollen as they use it as a food source. They have fuzzy bodies and special structures called pollen baskets, which let them pick up and carry pollen with ease. They often drop some while visiting other flowers. Most of us think of bumblebees or honeybees when we hear the word bee. Not everyone knows that those are different types of bees, with multiple species of each type. However, there are even more types of bees beyond those, with over 16,000 different species of bee across the world. Over 300 of them can be found in Pennsylvania. We also tend to think of these insects living together in hives with a single queen bee, but some types of bees, like carpenter bees, leafcutter bees, or mason bees, are considered solitary, where each female makes her own nest. Most of the pollination of food crops is done with a honeybee, but our native bees, including some of those solitary bees, do more of the work pollinating our local plants. More than half of native bees in North America are in decline, and 1 in 4 are at risk of extinction. This can put the plants they pollinate at risk, especially if the flowers are specialized towards certain pollinators. If you want to support those bees, there are a few things you can do. One is that you can plant certain flowers. We'll talk about that more soon. Another thing you can do, just like we talked about with the owls and bats last week, is to put up a bee house. This gives the bees shelter and encourages them to live in the area. These types of bees that will live in a bee house are the solitary bees, many of which either cannot sting or are non-aggressive and unlikely to sting except in self-defense. So you shouldn't have to worry about the safety of keeping bee houses in your yard. The other main pollinator we're going to talk about today are butterflies. We love to see these colorful insects flying around during the summer. They're fascinating creatures and are worth appreciating for more than just their beauty. A butterfly egg hatches into a caterpillar. These caterpillars then eat and grow until they're ready for the next stage of their life. Then they build a chrysalis. While inside the chrysalis, their whole body is rearranged in a process called metamorphosis until they hatch out as a butterfly. How many different types of butterfly do you know? Did you know there are around 18,500 species of butterfly that we've found so far? A little less than 150 of those can be found in Pennsylvania. Some of these butterflies travel or migrate very long distances around the world, spending different periods of time in different locations. For example, the monarchs you might see this summer will travel thousands of miles over a few generations down to Mexico to spend the winter. Other butterflies travel even further. But why are butterflies pollinators? The adult butterfly has a very long tube of a mouth part they use to sip nectar from flowers. Some will eat the pollen as well, but just like bees, they travel from flower to flower, drinking nectar and picking up and dropping pollen as they go. They don't usually carry as much pollen as a bee, but they're more likely to carry it over a greater distance. If you'd like to see pollinators and don't have a garden of your own, you can visit local nature centers, which often have native flowers planted to attract pollinators. Latotomy Nature Center is located right in North Park, and you're sure to see pollinators along some of their trails. Beechwood Farms Nature Reserve in Fox Chapel, part of the Audubon Society of Western Pennsylvania, is another great option. In fact, they have some programs this month on butterflies of Western PA and native pollinators in general if you'd like to learn more. You can find the link to their program calendar below. If you'd like to take action yourself, Project Bee Watch is a local Allegheny County citizen science project started by Professor Matthew Opdyke of Point Park University in 2018. After training on identifying pollinators, participants are given an area to observe, which they can do on their own time from May through October. The information collected is turned in and analyzed by the professor and then shared with the public. This helps us to know how pollinators are doing in our own local areas. Training sessions are limited and you might have to wait a while before the next one is available, so keep an eye on the Project Bee Watch website, which I'll link below. You might be wondering, is there anything else you can do while you wait? Absolutely. Planting native flowers is a wonderful way to support our pollinators. Penn State Extension Master Gardeners recommend clustered mountain mint, boneset, coastal plain Joe Pye, swamp milkweed, and stiff goldenrod as some great options to support a wide range of pollinators. Eastern purple coneflowers, giant ironweed, and black-eyed Susans are some other good options. And in addition to the swamp milkweed mentioned, common milkweed or butterfly milkweed are great for providing for monarch butterflies. You can even have your own yard or garden certified as a monarch way station, an important habitat to support monarch butterflies if it meets certain requirements. You can find out more at the link below. There's so much more information available about gardening for pollinators, both online as well as through Nature Center programming. Both the Audubon Society of Western Pennsylvania and Latotomy Nature Center have such programs scheduled for this summer. Well, I hope that you've learned a little more about pollinators today. They're so important to us, both in terms of food and the general environment. I hope that each one of you watching takes at least one step to help our pollinators, whether that's planting some pollinator-friendly plants in your garden, maybe putting up a bee box, or joining a citizen science project. If all of us help, we can really make a difference. Happy Nature Days!